Hey y'all, what's up? It's Joleigh and welcome back to Fridays here on Daily Diabetics. To start off this video, I want to tell you guys happy Type 1 Diabetes Awareness Month. And to start off this month, we want to share with you guys our diagnosis stories. So why don't we just jump right into this week's video. Alright, so I know type 1 diabetes is usually diagnosed in younger kids, but I was actually diagnosed when I was 17 years old, and all of my signs started to happen like 2 to 3 weeks before I was diagnosed. So about 2 to 3 weeks before I was diagnosed, I started to get really shaky and feeling like I was going to pass out when I first woke up and at lunch. So I remember one morning waking up and telling my mom, or calling my mom because she worked at the school that I went to. I was like, hey mom, I do not feel good. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I just don't feel safe driving. So she was like, all right, well, why don't you eat some breakfast? Why don't you drink some water? Take it easy and try to get to school when you can. So I did all of that and I started to feel better. I got ready and I decided to go to school. But the thing is, I remember getting to school, but I don't remember ever driving there. And then I remember sitting in my anatomy and physiology class, which was, I believe, my third class of the day, right before lunch. And I remember starting to get really shaky every single day in that class right before lunch. I was like, this has never happened to me before. I was like, what is going on? But then I remembered one of my really good friends, Victoria. I know when she does not eat in a really long time, she starts to get really shaky and she needs to eat. And so I was like, maybe it's just that. And so then I would start to bring snacks to that class and I started to feel better. And once I ate lunch, I was like, oh, I feel so much better. And so then I would go to my next class, school is over, and I went to cheerleading practice. And I remember starting to like black out, and then I would come back and it was like really sparkly, and then it would go to like normal vision. It was so weird. I remember just like getting a really bad headache, feeling like I'm gonna pass out, and I was surprised when I would black out that I didn't pass out, and it would just go black and then go back, but like sparkly and then go clear. It was really weird. And I remember telling my coach, hey, like, I need to sit out. I do not feel good. She was like, yeah, you're acting kind of weird. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just keep feeling like I'm going to black out, like I'm going to pass out. My head hurts. I'm really shaky. And she was like, okay. She's like, did you eat anything today? And I was like, yeah, I have like a granola bar and like a fruit or string cheese or something like that. And she was like, okay, well, why don't you eat a granola bar? Why don't you drink some water and drink this Gatorade? I think your electrolytes are low. And I was like, okay. So I did, and after that I felt good, so I'd start to cheer again. After that was fine. And then I remember, like after that, I remember starting to go to the bathroom 5 or 6 times in the middle of the night, and then getting up 5 or 6 more times in the middle of the night to go get something to drink because my mouth was so dry. So I was having to go to the bathroom so much because I was drinking so much water, and to me that made sense. So I was like, I didn't even think anything of it. And then I remember probably like a week and a half before my diagnosis, there was a home football game and I was cheering at this game, and I remember I couldn't even get through a full cheer without my mouth getting so dry and doing like really weird things. And my mom at some point, she like pulled me aside and she's like, what is wrong with your mouth? And I was like, I don't know, I think it's just because of the heat. It is really dry and it's like my lips are sticking to it and my tongue is doing weird things. It was just weird to me. It's never happened to me before. And then I remember like that weekend on Saturday, I went to my brother's football game, and me and my best friend, we drove like 2.5 hours to this game. And I remember like from my house to the football field, I stopped at least 12 to 10 times to go to the bathroom and to get something to drink. And my friend was like, are you okay? Like, this doesn't seem right at all. And I was like, I'm just drinking so much water, I have to go to the bathroom. She's like, you never drink this much water. Like, I've been telling you, you need to drink more water in a day and you don't. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just started drinking more water and I'm starting to feel better other than I have to go to the bathroom all the time. She's like, maybe it's not a bad thing. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then we got to the football game and I didn't have anything else to drink. And I went up to my boyfriend's dad at the time and I was like, hey, do you have anything to drink? And he was like, yeah, here's a Gatorade. And he gave me a water. And it was one of the bigger Gatorades, like not one of the smaller ones, but one of the bigger ones. And I remember drinking that in like a minute and then like trying to make myself only sip the water and just chugging the water. And then I was like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, and then I remember having to go to the concession stands to get more drinks, and I went, at one point I got water, and then at one point I got a Gatorade, and at one point I got a Sprite, and then finally my parents got there, and my dad went to the gas station, and he got like one of the bigger waters, and I remember drinking that in less than a minute, and my dad's like, are you okay? And I was like, no, and he's like, you drank my water, and I was like, I'm sorry, I was like, I've been so thirsty, and he's like, it's okay, just go get me something from the concession stand. So I was like, okay, so I did. And I just remember having in the bathroom, drinking so much water at the time. And then I remember going home from that game, started to feel better. I woke up a million times at that night to go to the bathroom to get something to drink. And I remember my throat starting to hurt, but I thought it was just because it was so dry. And I woke up and I couldn't stop coughing the next morning. My throat hurt, my head hurt. I just did not feel very good. So I just stayed in bed all day on that Sunday. That Monday I woke up and I wasn't feeling very good. And because of all these different things that were going on, I ended up going to the doctor that day. And I got to the doctor, they did all these tests. At this doctor's appointment, I don't remember what my weight was. But I do remember them telling me that, hey, I think you have an upper respiratory infection. I was like, okay, that's manageable. I was like, we can do that. So they gave me, they listened to my breathing and was kind of worried about that. So they gave me like a nebulizer steroid type thing that I did at the doctor's office. They cleared me to drive myself home, and then I had to do the nebulizer like once or twice a day or whenever I had a hard time breathing. So I did that. And then that like Tuesday, I stayed home from school and I got worse. I just wasn't feeling very good. So that Wednesday I went back to the doctor. My mom was like, well, we have recently found mice in our house because our cat has caught them. And then I've been hanging out in our barn in our like garage area where there's mice. And my mom was like, well, maybe you have hantavirus. And if you guys don't know what hantavirus is, it's carried in mice. And so my mom took me to the doctor on that Wednesday, and she was like, will you test my daughter for hantavirus? And they're like, yeah. So they took my blood and only tested me for hantavirus, didn't test me for anything else. And I remember when they were doing the exam of my height and my weight and everything, I lost like 15, 20 pounds from Monday. And this is Wednesday of the same week. And I was like, that's weird. Like, that's not good. So at that time, they told me, no, you don't have hantavirus. It's just the upper respiratory infection. Things usually get worse before they get better, you know that old saying. So I went home and I did more of the nebulizer treatments, and then I still wasn't feeling better. So Thursday, my stomach started to hurt. I started to feel nauseous, like I was going to throw up. My throat still hurt. I was coughing really bad. I was like getting hot flashes and getting chills, and I was like, what is going on? I was losing so much weight. I didn't want to eat anything because I wasn't, like, I felt like I was going to throw up. So that Friday I went back to the doctor and I was like, okay, there's something else wrong with me. You have got to figure out what is wrong with me. So they started doing the exam again, and I lost even more weight. And I was like, it hasn't even been a week, and I've lost like 30, 35 pounds. I was like, what is going on? And they tested me for the flu, and they're like, you have the flu. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, all these signs, like getting chills, my stomach hurting, my throat hurting, my head hurting, hot flashes, all these things lead to the flu. I was like, that makes so much sense. Okay, so they gave me antibiotics. That next day, I felt so much better. Like, I don't know what it was. It was like a cloud went over me, started to feel better. That Saturday, I had a cheerleading competition down at Elitch Gardens in Denver. So I went to that competition. Me and my best friend drove down there. Felt fine, no issues. Felt like a whole new person again. Got there and it was like 100-something degrees outside. And we were waiting to get in line to this amusement park where our cheer competition was. And I remember like feeling like I'm gonna pass out. I was having a really hard time breathing. It all hit me again, like, but 10 times worse than it was the day before. And I remember my coach asked me, she was like, did your doctor test you for type 1 diabetes? And I was like, no, I don't have diabetes, but they test me for diabetes. She's like, well, my nephew has type 1 diabetes. And she was like, I think you have type 1 diabetes. And I was like, no, I don't. I was like, I think my doctors would have probably tested me if they thought that. I've been to the doctor 3 times this week. She was like, okay, well, maybe it is just whatever they keep telling you. And I was like, okay. And things started to get worse at this competition. We're laying there. I'm laying like across one of these benches on my best friend's lap, and she's like, Joe's like, what is wrong? She's like, there's something wrong. I was like, I'm fine. I just need to rest. I need to be able to go on the mat. She was like, you're not going to be able to go on the mat. She's like, you can barely stand. And I was like, I'll be okay. And so my coach went and got me chicken tenders and fries and this like caffeinated tea, because I don't really drink soda or anything with like caffeine in it, because I don't know, I just don't drink it. And she was like, try this. She's like, tea with caffeine always makes me feel better. I was like, okay. So I was drinking that, and she was literally like force feeding me. She was like, you've got to eat. I was like, I haven't eaten in like 3 days. I was like, I'm gonna have to eat that. That's probably what is wrong with me. And she's like, if you don't eat anything, you can't go on the mat. I was like, okay. So I started to eat something. I started to eat these gummy bears my best friend had. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready to go on the mat. I was like, if I don't go out there, then we can't do our stunts because I'm in the back spot. And I was like, I've got to go out there. So this is our first competition. This is my first competition as a cheerleader. I was like, I've got to go out there. So I did, and we went on the practice mat right before we went on, and nothing hit. Everything looked awful. I was like, oh my gosh, I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing in a stunt. I was so confused. We got on the mat and we did awesome. We actually got first place at this competition. And then I remember going home that night and everything got so bad. I started throwing up. I started just so bad. I couldn't keep anything down. I was trying to drink water. And at this point, like, my dad thought I was sticking my finger down my throat because I lost so much weight. Like, you could see my ribs. My face was sunken in. Like, my eyes were popping out of my face because everything was so sunken in. I looked so bad. If I can find some pictures, I'll try to insert them at the end of the video for you guys. But I looked really bad. So I stayed home. So that's Sunday. I stayed home on Monday. My mom is a school teacher and my dad works at a fire station. So my mom went to work at the school that day, and my dad came home a little bit after my mom left from his shift at the fire station. He got there and I was awake, but I wasn't there. Like, I wasn't really talking. I was just laying there in the living room. Just my dad knew something was wrong, so he put me in his work car, which is like which had like fire stickers on it and stuff. He had lights and sirens and stuff, but he didn't put his lights and sirens on. He just literally put me in the car. Like, I was not ready to go anywhere. Like, I literally just had a t-shirt and shorts on. That's it. And I was like, not ready to go anywhere, Dad. I was like, I've got to go. And I remember my mom that night before, she got me cantaloupe, and so I was like, Dad, we've got to bring this. And I remember eating cantaloupe in the car on the way to the hospital. And I remember my dad putting me in the car and just flying to Denver, because I live in Bailey, and we had to go to Denver, which is like a 45-minute drive. And my dad got me in there like 20 minutes to Children's Hospital. As soon as I walked into the emergency room, they tested my blood sugar, and they knew exactly what was wrong with me. They told my dad, your daughter has type 1 diabetes. My mom and my grandma and my brother got there, and the Children's Hospital that I was at did not have an ICU, so they had to Flight for Life ground me to one children's hospital to another one that had an ICU, and I was in that ICU I think for 2 days, I want to say, and then I was in a regular room for 2 days in the hospital. And my blood sugar was so high, they told my dad that if I would have been in there seconds later, I would have been in a coma that I may not have come out of. And my blood sugar was in the 900s, and so it was really high. My A1C was in the 12s. So obviously my diabetes had been there for a long time and just not diagnosed. My blood sugars obviously were really high. And then in the mornings really low. And all these signs are so typical for diabetes, and nobody caught it. And it was almost caught too late. And so after I got out of the hospital, I went to the Barbara Davis Center in Denver, where I went for like a 3-day class. And I remember them not letting me leave the hospital until I gave myself a shot. And at this point I was terrified of shots. I was like, I don't want to. And I remember waking up every single hour during the day. They had to test my blood sugar. It was just awful. I never got sleep at the hospital. Went to these 3-day classes. Then they were like, all right, you can go home. And we were like, no. We live like from the Barbara Davis Center to my house is probably like an hour and 20 minute drive. And my mom's like, no. Like, what are we gonna do? And And so the first thing we did was we ate close to the Barbara Davis Center to see if we could do this ourselves. We were like, we've got to make sure that we're able to do this before we go home. So we ate food, we went home, and my mom wouldn't let me sleep in a different room than her for probably a month. And I was sleeping with my mom. And then I went back to the Barbara Davis Center a week after I was diagnosed. And everything started to look good, all of that. And now I go every 3 months, and I have the most amazing doctor. And this is a really touchy story for me, because like Lindsay said, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't. My blood sugar was so high, and I was really close to dying, and I shouldn't be here. But I'm happy that I am, because I get to share stories like this with you guys to show that I went from being so unhealthy to because of not being diagnosed, to where I am now, where I'm living a really good life, even though I had diabetes. And that's why God let me stay here. That's why I'm still here, is to spread awareness, to eventually be a pediatric nurse and work with kids with type 1 diabetes, because that's what I want to specialize in, and work with these kids over the summer in diabetes camps. That's what I've wanted to do, and that is why I am still here. And I'm happy I'm able to share these stories with you guys. So, if you guys want to share your diagnosis story with me, be sure to leave comments down below. Message me on my Instagram, which is joleigh.oakley, or jojo.t1d.strong are both in my Instagram, so go follow me there. Be sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell down below, and be sure to follow Daily Diabetics and the other 6 diabetics on every single social media that we have linked down below. Alright, I'll see y'all next week. Bye guys.